On 9th of February, total of 18,60,100 rupees had been withdrawn from my dad's bank account.
A 77-year-old individual logging in at an odd hours and doing 6 transactions within a span of 24 hours. That should create some sort of a alert in the system.
How can you re-register bank account which was once registered already? And that is where I think the bank is at fault. So it happened with my dad. His name is he's a retired 77-year-old person. And from his bank account through internet banking, 18,60,100 rupees were withdrawn without his knowledge. I do management consulting, business consulting, and financial consulting work. I've been in Jodhpur for a year and a half. My dad is he's a CA chartered accountant. For last few years, since he has he's forgetting things and become a little more older, I am handling his bank accounts for last about 5-6 years. He's not very familiar. He uses computers, but financial matters he does the paper way only. He cannot actually do any internet banking or mobile banking kind of work or transfer funds or things like that. On 8th of February, things were normal, but on 9th of February, my aunt, my dad's elder sister, she was hospitalized, in Jaipur only for some cancer issues, and she was in ICU. So that message had just come that she was breathing her last breaths. So the situation was quite tense, and my dad was very sad and upset about it. And the discussions in the house were mainly going around that particular topic only. It's around 4 o'clock on 9th of February, we got the message that, she is probably will not live through the day. So he was contemplating to come to Jaipur from Jodhpur to see her once. Finally, we decided to book the tickets. Nobody was, we are not checking our mobile or emails or anything, because he was supposed to leave the next morning, early morning. She was in ICU, so he stayed for 10th and 11th. He was both in hospital in Jaipur only. 12th afternoon, I checked his email for some other work. That's when I saw the emails of some OTPs and some transactions. I checked with him has some SMS come or not, and if I checked on his mobile, and there were SMS on some deductions. So I realized that he had not done it, and I also had not done those transactions. So I immediately first wanted to ensure that whether the transactions were actually done or it was some mistake of bank sending SMS or something. So I called the bank and I immediately asked for a statement, and that's when I realized that those transactions were actual. Total of 18,60,100 rupees had been withdrawn between 10th and 11th from my dad's bank account. There was this RTO e-challan APK file that was sent in one of the WhatsApp groups. He being a senior citizen, when somebody calls, the Truecaller app opens, some ads open, and at the end there is a visiting card that opens up, and you don't have so much patience. He doesn't remember installing any app or anything or clicking on any file in the WhatsApp group. So what we suspect is that while closing some of these ads, he clicked multiple times, and the Android had registered those clicks. And because the ads don't immediately close, you have to see it for certain milliseconds or a second or two before they give the close button. App closed, and the clicks that were registered in the buffer of the Android, that just kept clicking. Maybe the WhatsApp got opened after that, the click, and then the same group, and then the one click must be on the APK file that had come.
To make it very simple, APK is an Android package kit, right? Let's say I'm cooking. I get a meal kit I just have to assemble it and I get my dish ready. That is what an Android package kit is, right? So going back to older days, let's say we had Windows laptops, etc. We get a program, we double click on it and it installs. Like it was a .exe file. The same thing for Android is a APK kit. So for me to run an app or any, say, Google Maps or anything, it needs to come in a sort of a pre-processed format. The phone installs it, then I start using it. Now the major difference between APK and an app which comes through the Play Store is that an APK was shared through WhatsApp. It doesn't come through the Play Store route, right? Which means, let's say I'm an app developer. I want to give you a simple app. Let's say it's a crossword or a game app. I make that app, and if I don't upload it on the Play Store, I give it to you directly. You are trusting me in terms of what the app is. I could say that it's a word game app or something, but you're installing the app. Sorry. In the case of a app which goes through the Play Store, Google looks at who's a developer, why are they creating this app, what is the purpose of this app, and they do some sort of checks and everything, and then it gets vetted to a reasonable degree, right? So there's a little bit more trust on the app. It cannot have, say, malicious software and all of that. But when it comes through a non-first party source, the content in the app cannot be as trusted as what Google vetting can do.
I think somewhere in the past that permission was open in the settings to allow the APK files to be installed from non-Play Store. And unfortunately, because of those clicks that were buffered up by the thing trying to close some other app, and it opened WhatsApp in the same group and then clicked on that particular message was there where the click was buffered up, and unfortunately that got clicked, the APK got installed, and that's how the scamster got access to SMS or the email.
So this specific app, what it tries to achieve is, it tries to steal your information, it tries to control your phone, and tries to understand what else is going on your phone. Just three objectives. What are you doing on your phone? What is some information I can get from you, and how I can control some of the actions on the phone. Just three things, right? Now, technically, if I were to understand how I can do these three things, so there is a specific provision on Android called accessibility mode. Okay, what it means is, let's say you are a handicapped person, you want to do certain things on your app. I could be your guardian, let's say, or a parent child. I take control of your phone. That's a legitimate feature available on Android as well as iOS, right? Now, I take control of that feature. I am turning that feature on when you install the app as a hacker. Now, the question would be, why is it so easy to get this permission? Because you never went through Play Store, you went through WhatsApp, right? So Google would say that, okay, out of 100 apps available in the market, only, say, 10 applications can use accessibility because they are a genuine need for it. Let's say it's a parent child, I want to control what my child sees. But there is no Google intervention here. So automatically I can take control of a very privileged permission which nobody can get. So that's like I'm taking accessibility mode, which means I'm accessing your phone. I can control what you do on your phone. Like when, let's say, for example, you're sleeping, I can open whatever bank app or WhatsApp, etc. That's the first thing it takes. The other scary thing it also takes is, it takes a specific permission called request install of other applications. So moment my application is on your phone, I have taken the permission to install other apps on your phone without your consent or even knowledge. Let's say you're sleeping tightly in the night, 4 other applications are coming in, which are even more scary. That's a very scary thing. It also takes permission of reading your SMSs, right? Every time you receive an SMS, it comes to me. So the hacker has a perfect, like a cocktail, where I can control your phone through accessibility, I can read all your SMSs, I can install other apps also which can be beneficial to me. So now I can get your financial information through your SMSs, I can also open apps without your consent, I can install other apps, and I'm also able to control what else is going on your phone, whom are you chatting with, etc., your contacts and all of that. So which means that practically your digital life is in my control. You are in sort of, let's say, in a different sense, you are in sort of a digital arrest, but the victim does not even know that they are in a digital arrest.
So he went on the small finance bank website and registered the bank account that we have as a new user. Actually, what had happened was, about in January end only, I had registered a complaint with the small finance bank that my internet banking is not working. My dad's internet banking is not working. I had called the customer service and the branch staff as well as sent them an email. So somehow this guy registered a new user ID with this old bank account, with the bank account details which was already registered a year ago. How can you re-register bank account which was once registered already? So somewhere, because the internet banking was not working, he could register new user ID with the same bank account number.
Once a customer is onboarded into the bank system, generally you open 2 things. One is the customer identification number. Second is an account number. Now, customer identification number is a unique number that we assign to a customer. If you open subsequent accounts or fixed deposit or buy any other product, even if you take a loan from the bank, the customer ID remains a common customer ID. What changes is your different product account numbers. So customer ID is a unique entry gate in which you enter a core banking system. Sometime back, RBI also mandated that banks will have to implement a system of identifying unique customers, right? So they'll have to assign a reference number that gets stored into all the system that bank has, so that customer can get their 360-degree view, and even the bank can understand the overall relationship of one customer with the bank, right? So this is UCIC is what being defined by a Reserve Bank of India into various forums. So when you get onboarded, typically what will happen is that there is something called as a dedupe system, which basically look for any duplicate entry for that particular customer. So these kind of processes are in place across the banks in the country. There could be some edge case where something must have failed for this deduplication process did not get followed, and perhaps this is one edge case where this happened. Usually what I've seen, the scammers would have access, or they would have open account into various banks and they would have tried to understand if there are any loopholes that they can exploit. They basically created a new login ID for this customer. This will be very specific to a bank.
So they got access to read the OTPs because they had not forwarded email or SMS to any number. They've actually read it from the phone, and that access they got from the RTO e-challan app.
Given that it can take control of what you're doing, it can become more and more sophisticated to make sure it's, for example, hiding its own icon. Let's say the app is now RTO Challan app. It can take the icon of a familiar app, like a gaming app or a Candy Crush app, or it can make the app icon invisible, so you'll never even know that the app got installed, even if you want to uninstall it, right? So those are the kind of things it can potentially take up. Now, in this specific case, what also happened is when the user clicks on the app, it asks for a lot of information: first name, last name, mother's name, date of birth, Aadhaar, PAN number, and then it says you have to make a payment, UPI, debit card, net banking, in which it looks exactly like how you do like on a payment gateway. So you give, say, you click on net banking, so you give your net banking email, net banking password, and then you try to log in, and it just says payment failed. So you would assume, okay, there's an internet issue or something of that nature, so you'll close it. But as a hacker, what comes to my server is, okay, this is your first name, last name, date of birth, and all of those information points, Aadhaar, PAN, and net banking email, net banking password, right? And the other advantage is I'm also constantly receiving your SMSs. So now I'll open a laptop, I'll know is123@gmail.com, this is his password. Bank systems are smart. They realize, okay, typically this person logs in from this location, this time of the day, whatever. Suddenly, why is this person logging in from some other part of the country, right? So it will send, maybe ask for an OTP, or sometimes it will ask for a call or some of those things, right? When those things happen, I'm getting to know through your SMS what the additional OTP is, right? Or if you're going to get a call, etc. So since I have that control as well, I can now log into your system and then get into net banking password. So once I've logged into the banking password or the banking application, then I can add a beneficiary, I can increase the transaction limits, I can get to know my debit card details, I can change a lot of details, I can change the UPI pin itself.
My bank account had a limit of 5 lakh transaction per day, all transactions put together. But in my case, both days, the transactions on the first day, which is 10th of February, the transaction was 10 lakhs in just one single day. And the second day, it was 8,60,000, which is both greater than 5 lakhs.
A trigger saying that a 77-year-old individual logging in at an odd hours, doing a registration, instantly adding 3 beneficiary and doing 6 transactions within a span of 24 hours. That should create some sort of a alert in the system. Usually banks have an EFRM, enterprise grade fraud risk management system in place, which basically alerts and try to stop some of these transactions. In this case, what happened? Bank tried to communicate through various means to the customer, but it did not stop those transactions or those registration at the first place, right? So EFRM can actually go from not just identifying, but also proactively stopping those transactions. So that was a failure according to me.
And then we immediately emailed them, the bank nodal officer and the senior ups, about this fraud. And they told me to go to the police station and register the complaint. Afternoon around 3 o'clock is when we immediately took the action. Before that, we were not aware that this was happening because my aunt, my dad's sister, was on her deathbed in the hospital in Jaipur. he was too sad and upset to even look at the SMS or see what's happening. He was not noticing it. They came, he might have seen, but it was not registering in his mind. And because the thing is, being the elder sister, so it was like a month. She was like a mother to him also. It was quite a bit elder to him. Doctors had given up on her recovery. She passed away on 13th of February. So the day after we registered the complaint, so she passed away. Yes, even he did come with me to the police station to help register the complaint, because the thing is, with the police station, you have to, register on your own. Especially the FIR has to be registered by self, not on behalf of somebody. Around 4:30, the complaint was registered with them. And then when I found the number that it come from, basically it was a group for one of the temples that we have in Ahore, Rajasthan, right? I called that number and asked him, okay, because the police was asking me for the file the next day. So I said, do you still have that file? So that's when I realized his phone was the one which was hacked, which sent this on many other things, and in this group and a lot of his friends. And he said, okay, when it was hacked, his phone completely hanged and he couldn't do anything.
The fraudster is cashing in on some sort of a trend or a wave, right? And this trend or a wave has been picking up a lot since, you're getting these, okay, I went through too fast on a toll highway, I get an SMS. I bumped a signal, I get an SMS. So they are very smart to know that, look, technology is improving. So people are known to this behavior that I get a random message on an app about a traffic violation. And these class of applications are available on, say, dark web and Telegram or different other places, or many marketplaces, not just Telegram, Discord, etc. So they take that application, they know just enough coding to add certain sort of applications on the APK to make it look like a challan app. So which means that on an APK or an Android phone, I can modify applications better. So if I find some malicious application globally through different channels, I can make it look like an RTO challan. I can also make it look like PM Kisan. I can make it look like Passport app, Aadhaar Seva Kendra, Umang app, etc. Whatever I want to make it look. Obviously, I use government authority because there's a lot of authority coming through, trust, etc.
I got to realize that when I went with the police to get the bank statements. The funds were initially transferred on 10th of February through 3 different transactions. One was 5 lakhs to Indian Bank, and the second transaction was 4 lakhs and 1 lakh. The second and third transactions of 4 lakhs and 1 lakh to SBI. On 11th of February, there were 3 more transactions. One was 5 lakhs to Indian Bank. One was 3,60,000 to Indian Bank. The last transaction was 100 rupees to SBI. And from these 2 bank accounts, the money was further transferred to about 9 different banks and 11 different bank accounts. Basically, the police issues a letter that they have to put the lien on the account and then give them the KYC details of these bank account holders. So that I went about on, I think, 28th of February. I with the police to go to 9 different banks across Jodhpur, talk to their bank managers and get them to issue bank statements, which they give right away. But the KYC comes from the nodal office directly by email to the police. The funds that were transferred for the State Bank of India, in my case, was to a branch outside Kolkata and the Indian Bank branch in Cuttack, Odisha. And during this process, I also found out there were like couple bank accounts in Bangalore, and there were 2 individuals from Ambernath living in the same geographical area, which is near Thane, Mumbai. And one has 2 bank accounts in 2 different banks, and one has 3 bank accounts in 3 different banks, where this 5 bank accounts between 2 individuals, some funds were transferred to the level 2. And further from level 2, the many different banks, same as well as some more in level 3 and level 4. And how the funds were then withdrawn is many through ATM transactions or ATM withdrawals. But one of the transaction which I found out later was through what happened was one of this case, the fraudster, he went to some individual and said, I don't have cash right now, I need cash. I will transfer 6,000 rupees to you and you give me back 5,500 only. So he gave him a greed of 500 rupees and that individual took phone pay of 6,000. So there are some point of sales transactions, there are some of transactions like this which has happened in our case also. It's not just withdrawals from ATM, but turning that into cash by picking random people or going to some of the shops or some other places where they do some transaction and buy some stuff like gift cards and things like that has also happened.
So the mule account per se is a nexus that being managed by a lot of these scammers who try to find loopholes, get more and more accounts, and the velocity at which they operate, because then they take complete control of those accounts, including access to the OTPs, login ID, password. And they also understand that there's an element of cooling off period. So when they do this process, they would have already added those beneficiaries upfront. They keep the balance to nil in these accounts when this scam happens. And then once everything is in place, the moment the money comes into the layer 1 account, they start moving into layer 2, layer 3, and then they try to basically break this down into smaller value transactions. The exit can also happen in the form of either withdrawal, they may purchase something from this, or they can also convert this through some means into some kind of cryptocurrency and take it offshore. Some of these things happen, which makes it extremely difficult in case if the money trail moves out of the country, moves into a blockchain or any kind of USDT, etc.
So what so far we have done is, first is the cybercrime complaint 1930, and the next is the FIR with the police. After that, I'm in the process of filing a court case to release the frozen and the lien money, whatever that is available. So in my case right now, the frozen and the lien money that is showing is about 7,838 rupees out of 18,60,100. But the thing is, the banks will not release even that 7,838 rupees to you unless a court order is there saying that bank needs to release that money to me. So if I have to recover that money, I have to go to the court and get an order that this is my money that has been fraudulently taken from me and it's sitting in this account, and I have to prove that it is my money that is sitting in that account. Then they will give an order on behalf of which the police will then go to the bank, and then the bank will release that money to my bank account. But because some of the accounts in my case, which are level 2, 3 and 4, has some balance, which is totaling around 98,000 rupees. That is also something that I'll have to prove. Nowadays, only they do freeze of the first level of bank accounts. The rest of the bank accounts, they do only a lien. Freeze is something where the entire bank account is frozen. So money can come in, but no money can come out, whatever the funds are. So I'll give you an example that what happens is, let us say a 10,000 rupees is transferred to a level 2 account or a level 3 account. Then they will put lien for 10,000 on the bank account. But on that particular day when they put the lien, if the balance is, let's say, 500 rupees, then they will put a lien of 10,000 rupees, but the only 500 rupees would be held in that bank account, and any new money that comes in will come and go. There will be no lien on it, which makes it very difficult to recover any money from this. That's exactly what happened in my case, that because there were only lien in this bank accounts of level 2, level 3 and level 4, on 13th of February, which is way past the 12th, 4:30 p.m. my complaint was registered. But 13th, in 2 bank accounts, like Bandhan Bank and Canara Bank, one account 2 lakh rupees came in, and that was withdrawn on 13th itself. But the bank did not hold that money, although my money lien was there because it was not frozen. So the scamster used it again to do some other fraud. So court as such will not allocate that money directly to me, saying because the other guy whose money it is has the claim on that money. So it is a debatable thing, but I'm looking to file a case where at least the 98,000 can be released to me.
From the RBI's standpoint, right, there are 2 scenarios that happens. One is the negligence by the customer. Second is that customer was not negligent, but still some kind of fraud happened, right? So these are 2 distinct categories. The third one, which is debatable, is that some element of negligence happened at the customer end, but also bank system, which should ideally have been able to prevent some of this, also did not prevent it, right? So typically we have these 3 scenarios. The first scenario in which there was a negligence by the customer and is established, today banks will basically avoid giving any kind of compensation in that. And the onus to prove also is a little cumbersome process for the customers because they don't understand the laws, regulations and what went wrong. If it was identified that, even though customer did not share the OTP, did not get any APK or fall prey to some of these lottery schemes, then banks are liable to compensate. That's where the limited liability guideline from the RBI kicks in. But in case where both have happened, and perhaps in this case, We are seeing a scenario where the customer is aware of some sort of negligence that happened because of an APK for whatever reason. I mean, we can always have justification that, there was an issue or the person was senior citizen, which we can understand and empathize, but there was a compromise of that installation of APK. Unfortunate, but happened. But the bank system, were they competent to kind of identify a pattern where they realized that some of these things got violated and they could have perhaps prevented, is a question of debate that will take place. And if the authorities decide that to give a favorable judgment in the favor of his family, an ombudsman can pass an order saying that, because of this happened, and some compensation can also be provided by the bank. Then obviously bank can book an operations loss and give it to the customer, or they can also claim it from an insurance that they already have.
I've already complained with the bank to the city level nodal officer as well as their bank level nodal officer that it is a issue with the bank where they allowed re-registration of a new user ID, because of which I have lost this money. So next is I have to complain to the ombudsman of the RBI in Jaipur. So ombudsman should give you 50% settlement usually happens because the bank is at fault drastically in this particular case. The thing is I have to go to the consumer court. These consumer courts are very favorable for consumers and customers in most cases because my money was with the bank, so they are supposed to keep my money safe. And there is a recent judgment by the state level of Consumer Court of Rajasthan, Jodhpur branch, where they have actually given a kind of judgment which says that if the fraud is reported to a bank within 3 days of the fraud happening, which in my case is 1 day only, that the bank has to completely reimburse the customer of the whole amount, irrespective of who the fault lies with. So that's my last resort. And the thing is, recently I went to the police station and they also told me that now they are going to send the police to Kolkata and Cuttack to arrest this level 1 bank holders. For that, they have sought permission.
So the law enforcement framework have evolved over a period of time. What we have seen is that there's a lot of recovery that has happened. A lot of customer got benefit out of proactive measures that the regulated authorities and the law enforcement agencies have put it in place. In reality, what happens is that, let's say they put a freeze or they put a lien on one account, but the same account was used to get money from various other people who got scammed. Now, it's not an easy problem to solve. You can say that I was the first one who reported, so give me the money. There could also be people like you whose system have been compromised and the money is lying in certain account that we could identify and freeze. Now, who gets first or who gets how much? Is it pro rata, or they will say that, okay, just take this, split into 5 people and report it back. Now, those kind of decision is a function of framework, and sometimes it's also open for interpretation or scrutiny by the law enforcement agencies, and may need certain court involvement also to get an order on which this can be disposed of. Authorities are taking a very good look at what is happening in the market, constantly changing the technological intervention that can either prevent it or at least protect the customers when it happens. And no system is 100% perfect. Scammers will keep trying to identify the loopholes in the system. How proactively we can take some of these feedback that happen in the market and how promptly we can fix some of these things matters a lot more.
Let's look at some tangible measures, like an infection, right? So the way is you need to obviously uninstall the app. You also have to ensure that the app would have turned on certain sort of settings, right? For example, like we spoke of accessibility mode, take control mode, sending SMSs, say for example, turning on developer options. You need to undo all of those specific actions, right? So common thing is, let's say for call forwarding, I can dial something like hash some specific digits for Jio, hash some specific digits for Airtel. So they will blanket disable all sorts of call forwarding on your phone, right? That's a very common thing I can do. I can just turn off developer options, which is very common, right? Let's say, for example, I'm even more afraid something has happened. Turn off data for 1 day. No internet, no connection, because ultimately every transaction has to move money through mobile app, etc. So turn off data. And obviously you need to inform your bank that something of this nature has happened. That is definitely there. What I would personally recommend is you change all of your passwords, because your banking password can share 70% of your Gmail password or Facebook, Instagram password, etc. They can wreck your life through social media scamming and all of that as well. So change all of your passwords, all of your pins. And the bare minimum should be, you should not have like a pattern as a login password, right? And wherever possible, if your bank gives you those permissions, use some sort of a biometric to make a transaction. When I say biometric, it is fingerprint or face match, etc. Because that is something, even if they get from you, they can never kind of replicate it, right? And you need to take all of these actions because they've taken information from you. Information is permanent, but these sort of small things are dynamic. We can turn it off. You should also inform all of your contacts saying that my phone got compromised, at least immediate circle of 10 people, 15 people, friends, family, mother, daughter, son, husband, all of that, wife. Tomorrow I can do social engineering on them.
Being IT and a financial person myself, and I'm financial advisor as well as financial consultant. So this was not only unexpected, but never in my wildest or nightmarish dreams that I ever thought that something like this could happen to me or anybody in my family. Because my brother is a IT guy as well, and so we are very cautious about minimizing our online exposure of especially the financial world. But this happened very unfortunately incident. We've been very clear with everybody, please don't fall for any of these things, or anybody asks for OTP, then say, okay, I can't give, but don't download any app or don't fall for any of these tricks. But the thing is, definitely, like in this case, my dad got frauded. But in spite of making them aware so much.
The first thing is, like we spoke of, applications, whichever carries the weight of the government, they should only use the Play Store applications, etc., or official sources, right? Now, the challenge would be, what is an official source, right? You can always say that there are only these 10 applications. This is the only place where you can install these applications. Or if you are proactive, install the applications in advance so that they don't ever find a need to go install the application which, somebody is going to tell them. The other one is, don't install through WhatsApp. Regardless of the person through it comes from, it's a group channel, etc., that's definitely there. If it's a group conversation, also ask them to have conversations with others, right? Hey, I've received this sort of a message. It's not an image, it's a file or an APK. Why should I click on it, etc.? I'm sure you have a family member, friend, neighbor, or somebody in your vicinity who knows. So set up this sort of a process where call me, call this person, some protocol where somebody can guide them in like a digital buddy. You also, of course, have third-party fraud prevention software. A lot of them are in the market. You could try installing one of them. A lot of victims feel ashamed, feel that, look, I'm so well learned, I have like a degree, I've retired from my PSU, I was a deputy general manager, etc. But they feel that, okay, I'm like behind the education race in terms of digital adoption. That shaming element needs to be taken out, right? Because like all of us will grow old and some new technology will make us feel obsolete. Be open. We've all made some mistakes on some technical app, so probably we can make it normalized.
At that time, he had not registered or noticed that his actually life savings or so much money has gone from his account. He's kind of functioning on auto mode or thinking about his sister only at that point of time. It's only, I think, after the cremation of his sister is when I think he might have registered. And I try to do whatever best I'm doing, as well as, I am telling him very clearly, it's gone, but the thing is, I am still there, I can help him out. It's for this reason itself that my brother came immediately from US for a week, and it was unfortunate that this amount was there. It was some recent sale of shares and some FDs maturing, that the money had come in because the interest had fallen down. The FD interest, the fixed deposit interests are very low. So I was waiting for, decide on the right investment. I wish it had seen the emails on 9th. That could have easily prevented also, because if 9th only, the person would have been caught, because if the user ID is changed, then I would have noticed it if I had checked the email. That's the regret that I have. ये समझ लो कि आपके पाप या पुण्य का पैसा था जो चला गया. Scammer, I would have to say, nobody is spared. The judgment day will always come.